All right, welcome back, guys. So we are looking at today ways that I'm getting prepared for TBC and ways that...
You are not prepared.
Dad? That was weird. Ways that you can get prepared for TBC. Now, some of this is fairly obvious. Like, yes, you're going to need gold. You're going to need to know what character you're playing. You're going to need to know what professions you're going to be. All of that sort of thing. But some of the detail we're going to get in around those, I think you're going to find quite useful. And I think you'll use, hopefully, because all I want to do is set myself up for success in TBC. And hopefully, with what I learn and what I find and the things that the methods I'm going to use, hopefully I can share with you, and it'll work, it'll do the same for you. Before we get into it, obviously make sure you like, subscribe, and a massive thank you to everyone who subscribed from day one to now, because the growth on the channel the last couple of days has been quite overwhelming, and the positive comments and everything. Absolutely love all you guys. Keep the channel growing. The content is not going to stop, and it's you guys who keep me sat in front of the PC at the end of the day, putting these videos out to hopefully keep you entertained on your commutes to work, or laying in bed ignoring your wife, whatever you're doing when you're watching these. Like, thank you ever so much. Obviously, feel free to come check me out over on Twitch as well, Scottejaye87, streaming most nights. And let's get into how you can get prepared. Oh, shut up. For TBC. So I think I'm going to start with the most obvious one. So, knowing what to play. Now, a lot of people, if you've been playing Classic for a long time, you've probably got multiple choices. By that, I mean you've got alts, you've got something probably that you might be raiding on 2 or 3 characters, I don't know. So you might have a couple of equally well-geared characters, maybe a bit of a scrub alt that you just use for fun, whatever. But it's important to make the right decision on your class now, so you start investing in that character ready for TBC. Because, like this is not a video where I'm going to sit here and start hating on any specific classes. I'm not even going to mention any specific classes, because I've done plenty of content on what's the strongest DPS, what's the strongest healer, what's the strongest tank. You can find all those videos on the channel. But it is important that you go in and you don't feel sort of let down by your class choice. So it's important to understand what the strengths and weaknesses are of the class. And as I say, we're not even going to discuss that today, but making that decision is important. And what you've got to remember about the classes in TBC, everything is viable. There's not a spec or a class in the game that I would say isn't viable to raid or to PvP. And I'm saying classes, not necessarily specs, because there are some specs that are slightly weaker than others. Obviously, that's expected. But you can pretty much get away with raiding or as PvPing as whatever you want, basically. Yes, there are strong classes. Yes, there are weak classes. But overall, play what you like. As in, if you enjoy the class fantasy or the play style of a rogue, play a rogue. If you enjoy a warlock, you enjoy summoning pets, play a warlock or play a hunter, whatever you want. Because with some time and investment into your character, be it by professions or BOEs or, time investment from farming, pre-raid, bis, whatever, you're going to be able to raid as pretty much what you want to raid as. I mean, I do meme on rogues a little bit in here, but I've reinvented myself. I'm not doing it today. There's not going to be a single rogue put down in this video at all. Useless. So look, first, understand the class that you're going to play. Some ways to think about what class you want to pick is, do you want to be able to do multiple roles? So, are you happy just being a DPS? So you're not bothered about rolling a hybrid class. Are you worried that you're going to get benched because you're a boomy or you're a shadow priest or anything like that? I did say I wasn't going to mention specific classes, but just to let you know what hybrids are, just in case you weren't sure. Do you want to heal? Do you want to tank? Just think about what you want to do, because, as I say, they all are viable. I get asked questions all the time, like, is it viable to roll warrior tank, or should I go a paladin, or should I go a druid? All the tanks are needed. Most raid groups will have one of each in the group, in all seriousness. So whatever tank you want to play whatever tank. Every healer is viable. The only one I would say falls a little bit behind, and we said we weren't going to get into specifics here, is Disc Priest in PvE. It's probably a little bit weaker, but still, if that's what you want to play it, make it work for you, show people that it can be done. Now, the next bit, I just want to demonstrate in-game quickly, because this is actually quite a big one. So, with professions, so obviously understanding what professions to go. Obviously, we know at the moment drums are potentially going for a rework, so, I'm not going to get into the specific professions that each class should be. I've done that in other videos. I'm still working through videos on a class-by-class basis as well. But understanding what you want now and getting yourself set up with those 2 professions. So, for example, in Classic at the moment, let's say you're engineering and, I don't know, alchemy. you know, potentially you might want to drop one of those to pick up the gathering profession to keep one of them leveled up throughout TBC. So if you're alchemy engineering, you might want to drop engineering, pick up herbalism, get herbalism maxed now. So when you're in TBC, you know, you can get your alchemy maxed, make some gold from it, drop the herbalism to then use the gold that you have made from alchemy to boost a profession to max. You know, you're maybe engineering back, you know, you might want to go back to engineering. So I'm just using those two as an example, but you know, whatever professions you are now, you might want to reevaluate. That's exactly what I'm doing. Part of my TBC preparation is sorting my professions out. I'm engineering on the druid at the moment. I'm going to be a resto druid now. I'm still going to be putting out loads of feral DPS content because I'm going to be doing a lot of feral still, but I'm now going to be switching. So I'm switching to level working tailoring. So, you know, I'm doing the work now. I'm getting my level working and tailoring maxed because level working is going to need skinning, obviously, but I'm going to rely on buying the leather from, you know, the guild skinners when they've got their level working maxed. I'm in no rush to max the level working. Tailoring is the one that I'm obviously really interested in for the Primal Mooncloth. So start thinking about your professions. And then I want to show you in game. So this is I think it's a really good tip, and I've not seen anyone talk about it. And I don't know if people are trying to keep it secret for a reason. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a secret, and I'm sure there's people watching this now, and you're thinking, you're an idiot, mate. I mean, everyone knows about this. Obviously, mats in Outland for all of the professions are going to start extremely expensive because no one's really going to want to be selling them. You know, these people who are leveling blacksmithing to get their stun herald or their, you know, their maces or whatever, they're going to be mining and blacksmithing while they're running around. Then they're going to be using all the ore themselves. They're not going to have any spare to sell. There's not going to be that many people, I don't see personally, that are going to be running around as herb and mining. You know, they're going to be a gathering profession and a crafting profession to max their crafting profession, because the majority of the people, they'll be leveling their main first and then they're gathering second. Maybe that's their 58 boost that they pay for in their account, you know. So on the basis that they're going to be really expensive, utilize classic mats now. If you're engineering, for example, I mean, what you probably want to do, and I've not looked at every single profession here, I'm just going to show you engineering as an example, then you'll have to do the research yourself on your what professions you are. But I'm going to be doing this for tailoring, and I'm going to be doing this for level working as well. Now, if we look at the Field Repair Bot 74A, now we know this is going to be useful in TBC still, for raids, just for anything. I mean, you're going to make quite a few of these. I'm just letting you know now. Or you potentially will be making quite a few of these. Now, these mats are probably relatively cheap at the moment. I mean, the fuse wiring, you might even need to go and farm that yourself, but it's Gnomeregon. You know, if you're a druid, for example, you've probably got loads of fuse wiring from doing your MCP runs. So, you know, that's not too bad. But these mats are pretty reasonable. So now switching over to Wowhead, this is what you want to do. So look for an orange recipe that you think is fairly useful, and then look on Classic Wowhead, and you can see here, I don't know if you've ever used this section before, the skill requirement, but it's orange at 300. It goes yellow at 320, and then it goes green at 330. So around 330 is probably the point where you're going to want to stop making these. But if you gather loads and loads and loads of these mats to potentially create enough to take you to 340, you are going to have a massive jump on your profession, your crafting profession, early on without needing any Outland mats. Now, I might do a profession tips and tricks video where I cover all the professions and look at what the most either cost-effective or most useful item will be to craft for each profession. But just for now, just focusing on one, and then you can do the research. It doesn't take long. Look in your profession, whatever it is. Find something that's orange that you think either the mats are really low or the item's going to still be useful in TBC. Going for the one that's useful in TBC still would be my preference. I would rather invest a little bit more but get some use out of it. That's why the Field Repair Bot, I'm not saying there is other items that you couldn't craft for a lot less gold and still get to sort of 330 quite easily. But this, you're going to, your guild's going to love you for having the repair bot, aren't they? So, really, really good. I think that's a good tip. And I think, it's something that you should start looking at now. And I'm going to be looking at level working and tailoring later on once I max them. But so, moving on, but it's not off topic, but same. We're still on professions. Obviously, understand, like I say, what professions you need to be. What ones do you get the most powerful crafted items from? What are you going to be most desired by your raid leader to be, so we know drums are going to change, so this is where I change my tune and stop saying you need level working plus whatever else. because we might not need quite so many level workers. Obviously, we don't know how it's going to be changed yet. Till we get a solid, definitive answer on change, I'm steering a little bit away from level working, particularly for non-lever users. I think if you're a lever user, you should still go level working, because as I say, I do see people still needing drums, but we'll see how they change that anyway. And then the next one, fairly obvious. You're going to need gold. I mean, how much gold are you going to need? This comes down to what class you are. Now, it also comes down to how much of a rush you are in to get certain things. So my advice to anyone would be to go in with a minimum of 5k. Now, a minimum of 5k plus all the gold you're going to make while you're leveling from 60 to 70, you know, that's going to comfortably be able to get you your normal flying and epic flying as soon as you ding 70. That is, I think, is very important. It's even more important if you've got a gatherer. You know, if you've got a gathering profession, you know, that obviously goes without saying that it's going to be very important. But how important is epic flying actually to you? If you've got 2 crafting professions and no gathering profession, why do you need to fly around quickly? You know, using the flight paths will be absolutely fine. You know, and this is just my recommendation here. You know, if you're only going in with 5k, we use 5k as an example, I would rather invest all that 5k into, let's say, cloth, you know, cloth cooldowns from tailors, or primal might cooldowns from your alchemists, you know, to get the gear quicker. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way to go, but I think if you've, the way I would do it is if you're getting with 5,000 gold, if you've got a gathering profession, prioritize epic flying. If you haven't, prioritize gear. And then obviously you're going to make the gold. You're going to make the gold back. You know, go primal farming. Go what, you know, there's lots of ways of making gold. This is not what this is about. This is more about recommended values. I think if you're a warlock, or you're a shadow priest, or you're a mage, you know, or even a boomy to a certain extent, if you're someone who's going to be using those tailor items and you're going to need to buy loads of the cloth, you know, spell cloth or whatever, you know, any of the free primal moon cloth even, they're going to set you back a pretty penny if you're in a rush. You don't need to rush. You can just wait. Use your own cooldowns. Yeah, it's going to take quite a while, but you're going to get all the items anyway, and maybe you just buy the odd cloth off the auction house when you see it cheap. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to try to get it quite fast, but I'm not going to get it as quick as everybody else, because I haven't got stacks and stacks of gold. I aim to go into TBC with 10k. I'm going to spend all of it. Literally, I'm not going to get epic flying. I'm going to spend all, because I'm not going to have a gathering profession, so I'm going to spend all of it on just trying to get as many bits of the primal mooncloth and white mend as I can as quickly as possible, and then I'll start making gold for my epic flying. But I also do plan on investing some of that gold into reputation items, which is really not for this video. And now this is the last point, and I appreciate it's quite this will be quite short and sweet talking about this. So leveling and leveling gear, so the 60 to 70 gear. Now, this comes down to what you are, obviously, what you're playing, and how you plan on leveling. Now, I'm going to do a dungeon leveling versus questing, and how I think that's going to go. That is a video that's in the pipeline. If you're a resto druid, are you going to dungeon cleave, or not dungeon cleave, but you know what I mean, dungeon farm your way, or are you going to quest? If you're going to quest, you know, at the moment, this moment in time, you need to start getting feral gear. This goes for holy paladins, resto shamans, holy priests, whatever, you know. If you're a healer, but you plan on questing, now is the time to start. You haven't got to be getting, you know, Nax gear. Don't worry about that, but maybe getting in some AQ pugs, or even some Blackwing Lair pugs, you know, but join in as DPS. Get yourself some DPS gear, because you're not going to need that much. You know, you can go and quest in Outland in level 40 greens. Trust me, I've done it. So you haven't got to worry too much, but getting a few bits is going to help. And then on the flip side, if you're a healer, we'll use a healer as an example, any healer, if you're going to dungeon farm, it's slightly different to probably the gear you're using now. So at the moment, you're going for max healing power, but you might want to consider stacking spirit, stacking mana per 5, because you're not going to need 1,000 plus healing. You know, you're not going to need ridiculous amounts of plus healing, but you can just save downtime, get loads of spirit, get loads of MP5, and then just never have to drink. That's going to be far more valuable to your dungeon group than you being able to do massive single target heals or AoE heals that no one's actually needing. It's better to really increase that regen and reduce the throughput. So that, again, something worth thinking about. And then the same sort of goes for DPS, casters and melee. You're probably currently hit capped. Obviously, you're raiding. or the majority of you are probably raiding. So you're hit capped. You're not going to need all that, remember, because you're not really going to be fighting mobs that are higher level than you. So start dropping that hit cap down in whatever way, you know, as in swap pieces out, whatever, to get more crit or more spell power or more attack power or more agility, whatever, you know, start making a leveling set now. And this sounds really minor. You know, you're like, well, what difference does it make? You know, an extra 5-6% hit that I'm not going to need or whatever. But it really is going to shave time off overall because it's not going to be that quick leveling. So having wasted stats is pretty pointless, and it sounds a bit min-maxy, whatever, but it's still worth doing. You know, if you can get an extra 6% crit instead of 6% hit, and the 6% hits wasted, the 6% crits not, then it is a bit of a no-brainer. So, you know, start planning out your gear now. That's what I'm saying. You know, start thinking about, well, I don't need this, I do need that. Getting regen stuff, getting the Dark Moon card heroism trinket for melee, you know, for the heal. It's going to be absolutely lovely in TBC when you're running around Hellfire or Zangarmarsh questing, whatever. You know, the extra, just reducing downtime for warriors and rogues. It is just now, the preparation phase is just putting a bit of thought into not trying to just get the maximum amount of gear as you can. Oh, I want to go in full phase 6 BIS. That's not what it's about. It's about going in with a sensible set of gear that is tailored for your leveling experience. And that might not be what your BIS is. So that's it. I hope this spurred some thought. I hope you found it useful. If you've got any questions or you've got any suggestions of other ways that people should be getting prepared, because I'm sure there's lots of ways people can be getting prepared. But if you've got any questions or suggestions or anything, drop it in the comments. Obviously, you know I love reading all your comments. I try and reply to absolutely all of them. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. Make sure you like, and I'll see you over on Twitch.